It's the Brad and John Show.
Brad and John Show for Tuesday, April 22nd. This is the C Block, which means we started right around 7:40. Okay, John, what else we'll talk about this morning? Illinois mascots, okay? Here we go again. I was listening to Annie Frey yesterday, and she lives over in the east side. If you know what we're talking about, this is a state-wide initiative to essentially have all the Indian-themed mascot names changed in the state of Illinois. And she ticked off, there's the Collinsville K-Hawks and whatever, K-Hawk or something like that. It's an Indian tribe. Your opinion on this, John?
I mean, I think, first of all, I think that we should defend the use of midgets and dwarfs and other historically celebrated people. And I think, of course, the Native American thing is ridiculous. I think, look, we've dealt with it in Missouri. The Southeast Missouri State used to be the Indians, and now they're Red Hawks. I gotta say though, in Illinois is dominated by liberals and progressives, and this is gonna pass. Like, you're not gonna be able to name things after Indians anymore. So conservatives or whoever else can fight it all they want, but you're not going to be able to change this.
Okay, if I were in a school district this is happening to me, you know what I'd do?
What would you do, Brad?
What's the name of the dude that was? Who's the guy? We talked about him just yesterday. Again, I can remember names. Who passed the bill or tried to pass the bill to essentially have everything renamed? What the other dude's name?
So it was the Scott Cups bill about Bishop Davidson.
Bishop Davidson. Okay, so he did this sort of tongue-in-cheek. Essentially, the joke was that everything was going to be renamed in the state of Missouri. Would be, instead of the Katy Trail, would be the Bishop Davidson Trail, and the Bishop Davidson this and the Bishop Davidson that. Okay, if I were one of the school districts in Illinois that the state was forcing me to change my name, I would change my name, and I would change the name of my team to the Big Fat Priskers.
Oh, yeah. Or maybe you can make it like ethnic and call it the Gordo. That way you're giving a nod to Hispanics, the Gordo Pritzkers.
Oh, yeah, the Gordo Pritzkers. Or whoever the guy who, was the sponsor of this bill, put his name in there, call it his name. So that was
I like that, Brad.
So, okay, you're going to make us change our name of our team. Or what they should do is they should essentially say, you know what? We're just going to be the LGBTQIA pluses. Or how about this? How about if all the schools decided we're just going to use the same name? And then it would be really, really, really confusing. Someone on a Friday night football game, and it's the
Pale Faces versus the Pale Faces.
Right, the Pale Faces.
But which team will wear white? See, that's the question.
Right.
Which will be white and which will be Mocha Java?
The Pale Faces are on the 22-yard line of the Pale Faces. People would be going like, what? What's going on? With all the problems in schools and things like that, why is anybody spending any time at all on this? It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's pretty silly. Now, I go to Annie's page every weekday to see what she talked about the day before. And if it's, she has somebody talking about Missouri or a Missouri elected official, I link to it. And I saw that early this morning, but I didn't get from her what she had to say about it. So I'm guessing she was opposed to the change, or was she?
Oh yeah, they're all against it. And see, I still say the story we just talked about. Okay, how can a newspaper in Pueblo be called the Chieftain? And remember, there was a time when the social, whatever you want to call them, the weirdo police. Remember, if you're a CEO of a company, what are you, John? You're the what?
Chief Executive Officer.
And there was a movement.
You're the chief. Yeah, you're the chief is in the name.
Right. The chief is in the name. And there was a movement. We have to rename the CEO.
And you can't have a master bedroom in your house anymore.
You can't have, in real estate, you can't have a master bedroom. And it's like, okay. And in plumbing, because in plumbing and also in electronics, you have male connectors, male pipes.
You can't have the male end of a battery anymore.
Right. And a female, female connector. I'm going like, okay, this, when is it that the minority can rule the majority? When is it that the limited number of bizarros out there will say, well, this is the way it's going to be because I said so? I just don't get that whole mentality. I don't
Maybe
get
with the
it.
chieftain thing, maybe someone went to the local Pueblo, community Indian leaders and said, hey, we'd like to keep this name and we'll give you, there's always money involved. So what if they went to the local leaders and said, like, if I was a legitimate Indian, not like Elizabeth Warren, but like a real Indian, I would set up something where, like, I had the council, I would do the Rainbow Coalition model that Jesse Jackson did, which is, if you pay us protection money, we will give your group the stamp of approval and we will protect you against claims of racism. So if you run the Chieftain newspaper, you got to go to the local Chieftain mob boss and say, hey, we want to keep being the Chieftain. We'll give you X amount of dollars a year, and we need you to protect us when people complain about our name.
Well, you joke about that, but to a certain extent, that's not necessarily that far off with some situations, because if I'm not mistaken, if I go back into my history banks, there was a situation where Jesse Jackson was coming after Anheuser-Busch. I don't know if you remember the story or not.
Yeah, I told you this story in one of our first shows, Brad. It was from the book Shakedown, and I told the story about Anheuser-Busch, yeah.
Right, and then magically Jesse Jackson didn't bother Anheuser-Busch anymore, and then unbeknownst to a lot of people, but sort of a secret, but then it came out that Jesse Jackson's son got an AB distributorship in Chicago. Wasn't that the story, essentially?
Yeah, that's exactly right, yep.
And so it's like, okay, we could see how this game is being played, right? We want something, you want something. We'll leave you alone if you do this. It's almost like watching episodes of The Sopranos, where the guy goes in, hey, have you had anybody rob this place this week? No, that's because we're taking care of you. Where's the protection money? That kind of stuff, right?
I love your Italian accent, Brad. A German doing an Italian accent and an Irishman evaluating it.
Thank you so much. Okay, something happened yesterday that what's going to be funny about this is, because John is going to dispute what I'm going to say, because John and I are on different numbering systems. Do you know what that interesting thing was, John?
Yeah, so we don't measure shows by segments. That would be a ridiculous way to do it. We're approaching show number 350, though, Brad. Segment number means nothing unless you're counting segment numbers. So we did not have our 1,000th show yesterday. It was the 1,000th segment as documented by Red Circle. But yes, thank you, Brad.
Yesterday, the last segment of our show, C Block, was our 1,000th episode.
1,000th segment of the show, yeah.
It's the 1,000th cut, or whatever you want to call it, podcast.
Okay, yeah, it's the 1,000th audio segment posted to Red Circle.
On Red Circle, which is our podcast platform. 1,000! And they said it wouldn't work. It wouldn't happen like that. Okay, one last thing. And I have to tell you something. I think this is getting a little bit ridiculous. I think that Trump and the people involved. Army suspends commander after Trump, Vance, and Hegseth vanish from command board. Do you know this story?
No, I haven't seen this.
The commander of Fort McCoy was relieved of duty after the U.S. Army base failed to install photos of President Donald Trump, Vice President J.D. Vance, and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth on a wall displaying their chain of command. Colonel Sheila Baez Ramirez was suspended as garrison commander of Fort McCoy in Wisconsin. Quote, this suspension is not related to any misconduct, the U.S. Army Reserve Command said in a statement. We have no further details to provide as this time while this matter is under review. Hegseth on Sunday reposts an ex-post claiming Commander Fort McCoy, whose base chain of a command board was missing photos of Trump, has been suspended. So essentially, when you go into, I guess, the CO's office, commanding officer, or whatever it is, the base commander of whatever these installations are, there's supposed to be pictures, just like when you go to Jefferson City, there's pictures of
the chain of command, right? The commander-in-chief, the VP, and the defense secretary.
Right, but there's supposed to be, like, if you go in Jefferson City, there's supposed to be, it's a rule that any state office building, any state office has to have pictures of the governor, Mike Keogh, on the wall, okay? In this case, I guess the rule is, in Army installations, you're supposed to have pictures of the chain of command, and I assume that would be what they're saying, the president, vice president, the secretary of defense, and I would say, wouldn't there be like the next person for that base? I guess that person's picture would be up there. Is that essentially what they're saying?
Yeah, I guess so, probably, yeah.
And then like the commander of that base, and then the XO or whatever. John, I think this is petty as hell. You know?
Yeah, I think it's petty for the guy from Wisconsin and not put the pictures up. Did he have the pictures of Biden up, or is this just
No,
does he not have pictures of anyone up?
this is a dudette. Her name is Colonel.
Okay, so did this chick have pictures of Biden up?
Well,
You get what I'm saying? Like, or is it just a policy of her to not have pictures?
it didn't say. It didn't say.
Well, that's a pretty important detail in the story, wouldn't you say?
Yes, and it said that after this happened, it said a new image was posted of the wall, showed the frames have been filled, and then it said regarding the Fort McCoy chain of command wall controversy, we fixed it. Also, an investigation has begun to figure out exactly what happened. The department's rapid response account posted on X. I call BS on this. I say this is to me what's screwed up about government. Okay. And what's sort of interesting about this is what did Pete Hegseth push as his motivation for saying he's going to be a good SecDef guy, if you want to call it that, Secretary of Defense, that he wants to make the Army back to what it should be, a lethal fighting machine, right? So what the hell difference does pictures on a wall make as far as lethality of being that machine there, herein mentioned, the lethal fighting machine? I say it's BS. And I say
all right, now with looking back at 2020, are you going to say that when you were doing the BS show with Shelley, if some Republican in April of 2021 said he wasn't going to put Joe Biden's picture up on the wall, you would have been like, oh, come on. The local commander in Texas doesn't have to. That's a conservative state. Let the commander make up their own mind. In retrospect, your version is that you would have been okay with that, too.
I'd say the whole thing's stupid because okay, I'm going to say this, and it's going to intermix religion and government, okay? I still don't necessarily understand the Catholic faith where they have a pope, and the pope's been in the news because he died.
Right, we discussed that yesterday.
Okay.
You think that if you don't elevate or you don't pedestalize or deify anyone except our Lord and Savior.
The 10 Commandments, thou shalt not.
Right, I got it. So you're saying that that's the same thing as putting the commander-in-chief of the U.S. military's picture on a wall.
Or putting Mike Kehoe's picture in every government office. I don't care. Why should his mug be? And once again, Mike Kehoe, I like the guy. He has a great backstory. Born in North City, worked at Dave Sinclair, worked his way up from, really, very, low end. I think he would truly be called. He wasn't even middle class. He would be called lower class, as far as his
right. Socioeconomic status. We get it. You don't think the governor should have his picture on the wall? I think if it happens every year, first of all, Brad, you've talked about how, like, for example, in education, in this segment, you said how we shouldn't be concerning ourselves with trivial issues like the names of high school mascots. I don't think that we should say, hey, why are we making a big deal about a military commander openly showing disdain for the commander in chief? I think if you're a military leader and Joe Biden is the president, and before Joe Biden, you had Donald Trump's picture on the wall, and Joe Biden becomes president, put Joe Biden's picture up on the wall. And I think this chick probably clearly wants to be some sort of hero to progressives, and she wants the New York Times to write a glowing profile of her, and she can raise some money and maybe start an OnlyFans. I don't know if she's hot or not, but she clearly wants attention. So, I mean, if I'm Hegseth and these guys, I don't even bring attention to it because she wants attention.
I just think the whole thing is wrong. I really do. And
I think that every state government office should have a picture of Kehoe and a cannabis leaf.
I think every state office should have a picture of Corky the Clown on the wall. How about that?
Yeah, Corky's pretty good. I was more of a bozo guy, but I'm a kid of the 80s. You know what I mean?
Think about government spending. How much money does it cost to have a picture of Mike Kehoe on the wall in every state office building? Think about that for a minute. And hold on a minute, I got to clear my throat.
I think it's donated by the Catholic Church, though, Brad. I don't think the state pays for it.
I don't think that's...
I think Pope Francis actually made sure that every state, because he knows that Kehoe's a Catholic.
And you environmentalists, what happened to all those Mike Parson pictures? Where did they end up? In a landfill somewhere? Don't tell me they recycled them. They didn't, because they threw them away. They put them in a pile somewhere.
Yeah, got thrown away. And I'm really perturbed that you haven't noted Earth Day yet, Brad.
Your birthday?
No, Earth Day. Today is Earth Day.
Earth Day. Okay. I thought you said my birthday. It's Earth Day.
No, no, I'm like you. Instead of, although I outdid you by 50%, I have 3 fake birthdays now.
John,
Did you know I'm 89 years old, Brad? I was born in 1935, and I
Really?
graduated from high school in 1953. What's there to dispute? I grew up driving a Model T, and then I moved to a Plymouth Parisian. I told somebody the other day I made fun of the K car, and they said, "What's that?" I said, "Something Brad Hildebrand used to drive."
I did have a K car.
I know. I love that story.
And it was a horrible car. Me being able to work on cars, it spent more time in the shop than it. And matter of fact, I bought it for. Matter of fact, my oldest son came home from the hospital in that car, and now I think back to myself, maybe if nowadays people would say, "Hold it, you picked your son up from the hospital and he was a newborn in a K car." Now they would have me, charged with child endangerment because
I know. And the best part about it is it smelled glorious because it used to belong to Karen Carroll.
It did, and she kept very good care of it. And
I know. It smelled like lipstick and rouge.
you know, I need to talk to her. I really do. I need to talk to her. She's one of those people that I really need to thank her for a lot of different things because she helped me out quite a bit. And I have thanked her in the past, but it's one of those things where sometimes you look back and people have a impact in your life, and you really said to them, "Hey, thank you so much for." And you know what? It's sort of weird. I won't go into it, but this happened to me recently, where someone reached out of clear blue and thanked me for hiring them way back when, which I thought was sort of interesting. Anyway, that's a whole other story. Okay.
Well, hey, listen, enough about Justin Offerman. I got a meeting with Bud James. I can't hang around today, Brad.
Justin won't talk to me anymore because Justin doesn't like me anymore, John. Don't you know that? Come on, John.
That's one of the best beefs from people that have heard our show. They're like, "Yeah, tell Brad I have no idea what he's talking about."
I'm going to confront him about the gas station when I was at the pump next to him. I said, "Hey, Justin," and he ignored me. He wouldn't.
Yeah, well, he thought you were. He saw a guy with a bum leg and eye, and he thought you were asking him for money.
Okay, John. Say goodbye.
See you tomorrow.